There we go. Oh, I love it. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I didn't have to push a button this time. Fantastic. Welcome, everyone. It's Thursday. Brian here, and of course, I'm joined with my co-host, Daniel Payton.
Yep.
That's right. And if you couldn't tell, just look behind him. You're never going to forget. So, yeah. Best-selling author, Daniel Payton, author of The Winter Wizard Chronicles,
Legacy of Dragon
Wand, Legacy of Dragon Wand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't know. There's so many.
7 is the newest one, but it's not out yet. So
yeah. So so welcome. Oh, I gotta get back to the comments here. I'm pretty sure that wow, no one. Where is everyone?
Come on,
What's
people.
happening?
Come on, people.
They're slow tonight. That's weird.
It's the weather.
Normally we have our normal crowd. All right. Well, I'm gonna just keep going. Well, I know that my sister is traveling to Florida. So the last time I talked to her, she was near Savannah, Georgia. So yep. And let's see, my grandmother's already in South Carolina. So she'll be coming back home pretty soon. Thank God. I should mention that I'm in Massachusetts. Daniel is not, by the way.
I'm in Michigan.
Michigan, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. How cold is it tonight?
Right now it is 18 degrees.
Okay.
And we got above freezing yesterday, but that's the last we're going to see above freezing at any time for at least the next 2 weeks. And what was funny is my father does a lot of business online with other people who work for his company, and somebody who was in Charleston, South Carolina, had to share his computer screen with him, to show what was going on. My dad looked at his computer screen, and it said 67 degrees. And then underneath that, it said winter weather advisory. And it was like 67 degrees, winter weather. Here, Michigan, 67 degrees is midsummer, people.
Right. Oh, my goodness.
Hello, John Clark and Heather and Jim Sadler. Hello, Jim.
Welcome.
In Oxford, England. And I believe, if me think here, it's about 2 in the morning for you, Jim?
I think so.
I put a lot of props to Jim.
And I feel bad because I love the fact that we have viewers. I mean, this is Oxford, England that he's watching from. I mean, we've had viewers all the way from Australia and different parts of the country. Well, I have anyways, but I feel bad because I've had guests that I've interviewed from like Scotland and England, and the time difference. I always forget about that time difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to do my show in like the middle of the day because it would be early night for them, So that's anything to get the guest on the show, I guess I was willing to do. So yeah, it is 1:06 in the morning over there right now. So thanks for watching, Jim. Hello, welcome.
Yeah, when I had my solo show, I actually times would do an episode around noon my time.
Yeah,
because it made it accessible to people who are watching from. I have viewers from both Australia and from the United Kingdom area, and both places. My doing it around noon put it where they could watch without having to be dead middle of the night.
Right.
And so it made it. It was interesting because I'd have to find time to take a day during the week and do it at noon. But I had fun doing that because they would come on and they invite friends on at that time, and so I'd have new viewers just for those special shows who were also from other parts of the world. So, that was an interesting little extra.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Jim's one of my biggest fans. He has every one of my books. I'm sorry, he's missing Remnant. He has almost all of my books personally signed and mailed to Oxford, England, and he has one. The only one in the world that is signed for me and you because I wrote it and you're in it.
That's right. Me. I signed the book and then I mailed the package my first time ever to Oxford, England.
I love telling people that I send books to Oxford. I don't always finish the sentence because it makes it sound so much more snobby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the woman at the post office, when I was mailing it, wanted to know what's inside the box because they kind of ask you, and I have to ask that question at work when I mail packages via UPS because Staples does UPS.
Yep.
So I have to ask, a detailed description of what's inside. You can just say something random, gifts or, whatever. I said they're books. I said they're signed, copied books that I have to mail to a fan in Oxford, England. And I said I had to sign it myself because I'm a character in the book. So she kind of was interested and wanted to know because science fiction happened to be her husband's favorite genre. So I told her, well, Earth's Last Starship is the best book in the world, and you should buy it. Why? Because I'm in it.
Your opinion of that is not in the least hinged on the fact that you're the main character.
No.
No.
What do you mean? I'm in the book?
Earth's Last Starship?
I didn't know this. The surprise. Oh, I didn't know. No, I'm just kidding. Of course I'm in the book.
Yeah.
But no, it had nothing to do with that. So.
I some good news. I've been working with my publisher this past week on my special edition for Legacy of Dragon 1, the books 1 through 3, which are the first major story in the series. We're going to do a hardback single edition of all 3 books. And I have, I just finished myself creating artwork for the cover. So I had a wonderful idea. I think so. I should hope so. For the cover of the book. And it really incorporates all 3 stories without overloading the cover. And so I worked on it this week, and we've been in discussion with it, and I'm really excited about putting it out. It will be limited. We're not going to do a massive run of the hardcover. There's going to be a limited, but I'm really excited about that because I've had some people who are really interested in that. So hello, Barbara and Valerie dropped in, and yes, I know.
Welcome.
Mentions Earth's Last Starship 2, which is sitting at my publisher waiting in line for being published, is going to be a fantastic book because he's in it as well. I have a habit of putting people I know onto books, and that's not always a good thing. Sometimes you end up getting killed, but for the most part, if you're friends, you will survive.
Jim Sadler is in this book?
Well, in Earth's Last Starship 2, there is a character in there that's based on his character within a game that
That's right.
I played. Fleagle is his character name. So, and kind of the personality is put into the book. Now, unlike Captain Brian Shepard, who happens to be the main thrust of the story. In fact, in the second book, he's even more important in the second book than the first one. Yeah. But Fleagle definitely makes a cameo. So did a few other people, but Fleagle definitely is in there because I had to. Jim is such a big fan, and he really just wanted to be part of that. So I made sure he got to be in the story, and so he's there, and that was fun. Yeah. So and yes, and Jim will get a copy. I know you will definitely. When I announce the hardback editions coming out, I'm going to get out there before it's out and say who wants copies. So if I have 10,000 people who want a copy, I'm going to do 10,000 books. But it's not going to be like if you come to a convention to see me and I've got stacks of books, it's less likely I'm going to have 100 of these sitting over there for you just to pick up one. This is going to be a little more selective than that. It's simply because it's an expensive process to print hardback, and I've already got the books out. So if people are just wanting the books, I've got those. If you're wanting the combined edition, they'll be out there. And, of course, Jim will get it signed.
So I have a question because, I've become sort of a new author, which we're on the last chapter, by the way. So chapter 15 is being written right now, and that'll be the end of our book together. And then, the whole process of everything happens after that. But anyways, so I've noticed a lot of authors do hardcover. They'll release, like you're doing special editions and make them, hardbound and limited time or whatever. Is that to reintroduce them again because of the newest ones that you have recently released or going to release to kind of see if people will pick up on those?
Yeah, releasing a hardcover edition has multiple facets to why you do that. Sometimes, like when Brandon Sanderson put out his recent big Stormlight edition with the art from Steve Argyle and Drew Baker in it and all, that was more of a bow to the fans, something that was really special just for the fans. However, what I'm doing, and what other people like to do at times also, is yes, books 5, 6, and 7 of Dragon Wand are currently in production. 5 is already out, 6 and 7 is on its way. So to keep that a little more alive and to remind people this has the beginning of books 1, 2, and 3, releasing a hardback edition, a special one with a special unique cover and all that, is a great way for me to advertise without just re-advertising for something I've been talking about for 5 years now. So it is kind of an advertising tool, but even in my case and like Brandon's case and all, it's also a step in the direction of just giving the fans something special, giving people who love the series, who really enjoy it. Like Jim here is a huge fan of the series. And so it's giving them something extra special that's unique to the series, something new. And also, to me, I'm looking forward to doing a combined edition. I'm talking to my publisher about doing this as also an ebook that basically is going to cost the same as buying all 3, but you buy one book, because there are people who just want to buy one book. They want to get the whole story, and it's a mental thing, but it works. So
now, is this hard? Is this going to be a box set, or is this going to be where you can buy them individually?
Well, no, it's going to be one book. Books 1, 2, and 3 are going to be combined into one book.
Okay.
Under one cover. And that cover is going to be hardcover with its own unique cover art. So, yeah.
Okay.
So in time, when the other books come out, then I'll do box sets and all that. But that's got time to go. I've got way too much going on now and then.
So what you're saying is that this is something that I have to order when it comes out.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. I didn't know that. I thought it was just you're just redoing different covers for the books. That's all. I didn't know you were combine them.
Yeah, this one's going to be one
with a whole new cover.
Yeah, it's going to be one big fat edition of all 3 books.
Wow.
Because that's how I wrote it originally. So the books are written as one book, and then my publisher broke it up. Well, this is kind of putting it back together.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. Awesome. Awesome.
Sorry. All right. Speaking of which, my publisher is contacting my publisher, Cosby Media, is also working on its new comic book line, Star Child Comics, and Bark is getting its comic book made, and the artists have sent us the colored pictures and whatnot. So if you pay attention to my pages, you're going to see some previews of the comic book, which it's interesting. It's a different take of the artwork than I do, so totally new, but I love it. I'm excited about this coming out. Now, we're talking lots about me. We have an author here today that has written some very interesting books. He's got some mentions by some very famous people about his books, particularly one. And I'm excited to have him on here. I've known him for a short while. Mostly, I say I know him. It's like social media know people. I've communicated with him online now and then, and this is my first time really having him face-to-face, which is cool. So the author tonight we're having is Kerry. I know I say it right. Kerry Nietz.
Yes, Nietz. Right?
Yeah,
I was like, ooh, I don't know if I'm going to say his last name because I'm not going to know if I'm going to pronounce it right. But you gave me the link to his Facebook page, and on there it says how to pronounce it. It says Nietz. So I was right.
Good. Yay! So I'm going to bring him on, and we're going to introduce you all to Kerry Nietz and ask questions, and we'll discuss his books.
Hey, hi, Dan. Kerry. Hi, Brian.
Hi.
How you doing? Good to see you.
Show.
Yeah.
Hope you had fun listening to me ramble about my books for the.
No, that was interesting. It's all good. It's all good. I understand. So, yeah, cool.
So, what I love to do to begin with the authors on here is to do me a favor and introduce yourself to people and talk about what you got you started, what you write.
Sure. My name is Kerry Nietz. I'm an award-winning author. I've been writing for over 15 years now. I've written number of like cyberpunk novels, and then some kind of genre busting novels like Amish Vampires in Space. It's probably the most well known, and it has 2 sequels. Yeah, I've been a sci-fi lover forever. Since I was a kid, watching Lost in Space and Space 1999 and you name it. So, like to read in the genre a lot too. And yeah, I just like story. I like to tell stories and read stories, and that's me. So,
I already notice that people are noticing the Halo helmet behind me.
yes.
We were talking about this before the show started.
Yeah, I have a 3D printer. It's right there, and it's one of my hobbies I like to mess around with. So, kind of creating different sci-fi things and costumes and whatnot. So this is my latest work, little Halo.
Wow.
So
That's cool.
Halo helmet. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So, going on. So writing. I looked up Amish Vampires in Space because that one has struck me since I first saw the cover, and I read more about it, and I found it interesting. Was this a challenge to you?
Was it a challenge?
Like someone gave you a a title, and you had to make a book out of it.
Actually, the title, it was a joke title. My publisher at the time would go to these writing conferences, and every other publisher is looking for Amish fiction. Your audience may not know, but Amish fiction is a big subgenre. Amish romance, and if you were to look on Amazon, you would find thousands of titles. It sells millions of copies every year. It's one of those secret giant genres. And so he'd go to these writing conferences, and publishers were looking for Amish fiction, and he'd say, well, the only Amish fiction I'm looking for is something like Amish Vampires in Space, because he was a sci-fi fantasy guy. And through the course of time, he sent out this mock cover of Amish Vampires in Space to the authors, just kind of as a joke. And he was experimenting with cover art, and and it had a lady who was obviously a vampire but Amish, and there was a casket in the background and a planet, and you could tell it was like on a spaceship. And and we're just kind of joking about that. And in the course of talking to him, I said, someone should write that book. I don't know if it's me, because it seems kind of campy, and I usually write sort of hard science fiction, but I think the title alone would just intrigue people, Mm-hmm. And so then I got an idea about how it might all work, and not be campy, like how the Amish might actually get into space and become vampires. And so I started writing on it, and I got about 30,000 words in, and I sent him an email again. I said, hey, guess what I'm doing? And when he got done laughing, he goes, well, send it to me when you're done, and if it's good, I'll publish it. So I got about 100,000 words more into it and finished it, and he liked it and published it. So that's how it came to be. And since then, it has 2 sequels: Amish Zombies from Space and Amish Werewolves of Space. So each about 130, 150,000 words apiece. So
I applaud that your target was to not go campy.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I feel science fiction particularly has a bad habit of sliding into. And with a title like that as your inspiration, it lends itself to campiness.
Right.
But you had to twist that into something that wasn't.
Right. Yeah, and I thought it was an interesting way to kind of explore some themes too. You have this pacifist community, and they're going to come up against vampires, which obviously are not. And like, how does that work out? Do they defend themselves? Do they? What do they do? So I thought that was just kind of an interesting theme to explore, and thankfully it all kind of came together. So yeah. So science fiction is all about, right? Just exploring big themes and seeing where it takes you. So
yeah, I challenged myself a few years back to write Christian sci-fi that was in a thought process like Star Trek, but be with a Christian basis. And that I ended up writing the book Remnant, and it was it was a challenge. I found it a huge challenge. And then after I wrote it, I discovered the community of other authors who write this stuff. I'm like, oh,
it's not just me. Yeah.
So what was the reception like when this book was published?
A lot of unbelief, disbelief. The cover got leaked early, and it went from just a few hundred people looking at it to like 12,000 in a matter of days. It being shared, and so that was cool. And then once it was released, it got Publisher Weekly mentioned it, and Library Journal and Newsweek. They did an article, surprisingly, and it definitely got some buzz.
Yeah, I noticed several big names of people commenting on it on the Amazon page. That you put quotes from people. Maybe not all 100%. You might say reviews, more of just you should read this or it's interesting. Mm-hmm. So it was that literally just the touch of fervor over it, or did you know?
Yeah, it really was. It was just total unplanned things that happened. In fact, much of what has happened with that book has been unplanned. Including it showing up on the Tonight Show. So, it's been a fun ride, and interesting group of people to meet, and very cool. Yeah, I remember one point I watched it on Twitter early on, and I saw people talking about it. Now, this was actually after it was mentioned on the Tonight Show, like 12. I want to say like 12 different languages, 7 different countries or whatever. It was kind of crazy. So,
wow.
Yeah. So it'd be like, language I don't understand, Amish vampire space, so what they're talking about, you go to Google Translate and, that sounds good, so yeah, it's kind of cool.
Has the book been translated in a lot of languages?
It's been translated to Spanish so far, because obviously that's kind of easy for, American, to find some translators, and someone was interested in translating it. So really, it comes down to, I obviously can't do the translation, so it comes down to people who want to do it, and want to kind of take that risk. So,
Jim asks, could you give a snippet of how the Amish get to space?
Well, you got to read the book, Well, I will say this: like the Amish. Yes, they don't use electricity, they don't use automobiles, but they don't have a problem riding in vehicles of other people who do. So, in the Amish communities, I live in Ohio, and the Amish communities around here, it's not uncommon for people who, like farmers who might want Amish workers, to just go around and pick them up. So, and they're fine with riding in the van, they're just not going to drive the van. So. So you can kind of go from there as to how it might happen.
Okay. Yeah, my very first thought when you said that was there's an episode of Futurama with the Amish have their own homeworld now.
Yeah.
And my very first thoughts on that was like, okay. So
and that's kind of the setup here too. It's in a future where worlds have been terraformed, and the Amish make a very good early team to be at home at these new homes, because they don't need a lot of technology. As long as they have some land they can clear and farm, then they're all about getting it ready. So that's where the story starts out. It's on a terraformed world that the Amish are living on. So
okay, so that's not campy. Now and my question is, does this book fit into the Christian genre or secular genre?
It's definitely written from a Christian worldview. It's not preachy in any way. I kind of let the plot. I mean, the Amish are a Christian sect, so obviously that theology is going to be a part of it because it drives everything they do. So, I just let the plot take it wherever natural progression it wanted to take it, and so yes, I mean, I guess it would be considered Christian science fiction, but it's, I think, open to anyone. So
Okay.
It actually got option for a movie in Hollywood by someone who's not necessarily associated with the Christian market. So
then the next question I have on that is, what was the Christian readers' reception of this?
Yeah. Well, for the audience like you and I have, they thought it was great because to them, Amish fiction has always been this thing they weren't a part of, and like this huge subgenre that was doing well inexplicably, and in some ways it is its own fantasy because it portrays generally an Amish culture that isn't real. You know what I mean? And it is escapism for the modern human to go into that culture. So yeah, probably the most pushback I got wasn't from the Amish. It was from Amish romance writers who thought that was out of my lane, even though it isn't really a romance at all. It's science fiction, but I did have one. Now let me clarify that, and that some of the Amish romance writers have been really helpful. In fact, one of them read the book ahead of time and gave me all sorts of tips, and they wouldn't do this, they do that. It was very, very helpful. But there was some pushback, and I remember one of them saying that, well, you have no business writing about the Amish because you aren't Amish. And I'm like, well, I'm not a vampire either, and I grew up on a farm, so I sort of have an idea what it's like, and like my dad was a farmer, and the Amish communities are not far from me. It's a place that we visit, not that, on occasion. So.
Yeah, I actually spent a few years teaching religion studies and denominational studies for my church's special school.
Okay.
And I studied in depth the Amish Mennonite communities and all that.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I have a bone to pick with a lot of these Amish authors out there, authors of Amish fiction, because 99% of what they have about the Amish is fiction.
Yeah.
I leave them alone because it's their thing. I'm not going to step all over their feet over it, but but my mother is a big reader. She loves Christian fiction as much, good Christian fiction, but her book club was getting into the Amish fiction and started reading it. And she comes to me with questions like, would they do this? Or what is that? And I'd be going, that's not right. That's not how it's done. He wouldn't say that. And over and over again, I was like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But I was like, you know what? If they want to read it, it's fiction. It's fiction. Yeah. They can enjoy fiction as long as they know it's fiction.
Right. And I tried my hardest to portray them as realistically as possible. I didn't want to have that criticism because their theology kind of drives the story. And so I read books about Amish society and then talked to some people who study them. And so, give it my best shot, so.
So yes, I as I said, when I first saw it years ago, very first time I ever saw that, I thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
That this can't be real. And then I started looking into it and seeing that it was a published work. I was like, okay, whose screwball idea was this? Yeah. But I found even then, I was like, this is definitely not what I thought it was going to be. Yeah. It wasn't. I thought it was going to be more tongue-in-cheek attack of Amish fiction. I thought it was more satire, and it wasn't. Yeah. So I'm glad you didn't take that route with it, because I think that gives it a little more life to it.
Yeah. So, Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, Jim, we definitely will link his works. Brian is linking him right now. Anybody who's watching this, we'll have Kerry Nietz' stuff, his page and stuff on Brian and Dan, our page on Facebook, so you can look up his works. Not just this, he's got all kinds of other books out there, which we're going to talk about in a minute here. And you can look up his work, check this out, and read him. See, Amber does ask the question: how long did it take you to write this book?
It's a good question. It takes me about 9 months, to write the book and then get through the second draft, roughly. And they were longer books, all three of them. They said 130 to 150,000 words. For me, is a long book. So Yeah, about 9 months.
9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say that I kind of I write a book in about 2 months is the rough draft, and then
That's great.
a year and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm
when do
good.
you eat? When do you eat then? You how do you fit into meals? Or sleep? Do you sleep or
I've since I was in since I was in ninth grade, I've had a strict writing schedule. I write an
Okay.
hour a day every day,
Okay.
and so it's always been that way for me. So
Yeah.
I
Are you a pantser or are you a plotter? How do you
I'm what's called a plantser.
Okay.
I have a plot set up, but then I let it as a story walk the plot, and that's something
Yeah.
I've done my whole life. But then
Yeah.
that was something Brandon Sanderson did a whole class on. There's a YouTube video I'm talking about this, and it's brilliant. And for those who are watching or listening, the basic idea of a pantser is a person who sits down and just writes. They have a character, they have kind of a setting, they have kind of a story, but then they just write. A plotter is a person who sits down and methodically writes out the details and outlines, all that fun stuff, and then creates a story off of that. The problem, and I've seen this in my own writing, and I've seen it from other people, is pantsers tend to rabbit hole. Their stories sometimes will go too far off of the plot, and you're kind of wandering in circles. Whereas a plotter can be very rigid and dull. The characters really don't feel too real because they're just kind of following a methodic story. The in-between marries the two. You get a walkthrough where they're following that map, but then you get that not rabbit hole, but that circuitous path that isn't just straight from point A to point B. You get a little more growth into it, in my opinion. There are some pantsers out there I know who do great work. There's some plotters out there who do great work. So there's no absolutes in this. But I have found that I'm definitely in between. I'll definitely know my plot, but I couldn't tell you point A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I can't give you that. But I can give you a general plot that I've written out and worked on and created.
Okay. Yeah, you're much more I'm much more a pantser. Like I have maybe a few scenes and kind of a general idea where I think it's going, but other than that, it sort of steers itself.
Yeah,
To answer Jim's question, I started out. I actually the first book I wrote was a nonfiction book. I started out in the computer science, so I was a programmer for a number of years, and so the first book I wrote was actually about my first 4 years of coding, because it was kind of this crazy time. I worked for a small company, and I worked for only a couple hundred people, and I worked for the boss, or my boss was actually part owner, and so it was kind of this chaotic, and he was a bit of a bully, so it wasn't uncommon for him to call us in from the gym, if he found a problem, call you at the gym, want you to come into work, or he once picked us up in a snowstorm, took us to work and left us there, so it was kind of this crazy thing. You didn't know what was going to happen day to day. So that was my first book, is sort of recounting that segment of my life. And, but yeah, I always loved science fiction. And so that was kind of a natural progression for me. And the first book I wrote was really cyberpunk, so it was a short step from programming, at least in my mind. So,
yeah. Hello, Christopher Cowles has joined us. Hello, Chris. So, okay, now branching off from that, now we talked about this. I want to say the elephant in the room, because I know because of my own experience, that's probably the first question people ask about your books. Does everyone want to know about that one? About Amish Vampires in Space. That's probably one of the biggest books people talk about, because it is such a different book. But tell us about your other works, about your other books.
Sure. My first trilogy was this kind of cyberpunk story. It takes place in a world 500 years from now, and it's where the whole world is under Sharia law, so like an Islamic culture. And my main character is this techno slave. He has an implant in his head that connects him to the future version of the internet, but then also sort of controls his actions. And he works on robots. That's like his job, And so the first story, it's called A Star Curiously Singing, is about him going to a space station to figure out why this robot tore itself apart. And then he kind of discovers things about his society along the way. And I think it's kind of very cool and hip and fast read, I hope. So that, like I said, that's a series of 3 books, and then actually a parallel series of 2 books with a different character in the same world. And then I have a series of books I wrote for a gaming company that all star. The main characters are alien rats. They're like from a species of aliens that look like giant rats, and they're spacefaring, and they just kind of get themselves in trouble. Like the first couple of books have a very much kind of a Firefly feel, except for with a crew of rats. And then the last one I wrote with them is sort of like an alternate history where they happen to come to the Earth during the Battle of Waterloo and end up being involved in that in some way. So yeah, and then I have some standalone novels too. So yeah, all good. You can find them all on my website, Nietz.com, Nietz.com. They're all up there. So
we'll definitely share that website as we go on our page and all, so people can check out those books.
Great.
And now, what can I guess? What gaming company this was?
Yeah, it's called Tacoma Universe. They have actually been around since the 80s. They started out as a role-playing, turn-based game where you would actually mail in your moves. It's their universe is as big as Star Wars. There's just that many species and spaceships and planets and whatever. But it started out in the 80s again as this kind of turn-based game where you'd write your moves and you'd mail them, and then a computer would sift them all together and then mail you the results. And at one point, over 10,000 people were playing this mail-in game. And yeah, so the original creators are still around and active, and they're now working on a massive multiplayer game, online game. So they wanted stories in that universe. They have a ton of lore at this point, after decades of gameplay, and so they kind of drafted me to help write some of those stories. So kind of fun.
Yeah,
I don't know if do you know Steve? Do you know Steve Raza? He writes stories for them too. He's written some of their stories too. So
yep.
So
yeah, I actually that's my day job, is I also write the story and content for an online game. So
okay, yeah, cool.
A game called Heroes Rising, and for mine, I am the story. I've created all their canon. I'm working on their developing their different storylines.
Yeah, nice.
It's a lot more work than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
but
it's exhausting, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but it can be fun. It definitely is different. That's something that when I was much younger and I was playing early video games and all, that I always wanted to do was create story for games, because I played games and I thought these games are great, but the story is terrible.
Yes, that's true.
Stories, and the thing is, when we start looking at well, you're working with programmers and you're working with computer techs who are trying to create a story.
Yeah.
And you can tell because they have a general idea, but then their story is not there. So I've always wanted to do it. So I find it really fun to do it, but it's a lot more work than I expected.
Yeah, that's good work though. That's cool. It's cool you're doing that. So.
Yeah, I think Jim is finding your rats in cyber and rats and zombies in space. He said he's wondering how sane you are.
Yeah. Yeah. I like challenges. I like to write things no one's ever done. I like unique worlds and characters, and suits me.
Let's see, did you ever read Livingston stories as a kid? A go-to page such as okay, yes, I remember these.
You mean Choose Your Own Adventure?
Yeah, I think
I did. Yes, yep. I did.
I remember those.
I had a few of those. Yep. Fun.
I had friends in school that loved those. I remember those very clearly. The Choose Your Own Adventure stories.
Yeah.
I want to actually do some of that. I have some ideas for my game, other things to do with Choose Your Own Adventure, but there's only so many things I can do at once.
Right. Right.
So
much time. Yeah.
So did you said you had a book published recently?
Yeah. So Rattaloo is the one I was just telling you about. Just kind of this alternate history where the rats end up at the Battle of Waterloo. So get to interact. They're there actually to. They lost their. They were carrying a shipment of cheese and wine, and they needed to replace that, so they ended up finding France, and they were looking to replace their lost food and wine, but they kind of got caught in the battle in the middle. So it's fun, and it was a good opportunity to kind of borrow from the lore of that time. It turns out in that era there was a legend about this beast that roamed the countryside and was terrorizing things. So that kind of helps play into that. And there's some other legends like Napoleon had a red man that used to talk to him. It's kind of this red man who would appear, this dwarf character. And
Really?
Yes. And so I got to play into that a little bit too. So kind of fun, legendary stuff. So.
That can always be fun. That's one thing I love about writing is the research when you're working on it. You learn so much. I have one I've not published. I mean, it's not even in the hands of a publisher, but it's alternate history fantasy based in ancient pantheons of Greek and Roman and Egyptian and Mesopotamian and all that. And to write it, I wanted to be a little more accurate than just throwing words on a page. So I did research. I was a deep dive, learning all this different stuff. So but it's fun. I love doing it. Absolutely love doing it.
Yeah.
And then weaving the craziest parts that no one's read in 300 years into it. So they're like, what in the world? I'm like, I didn't invent that. The craziness started back then.
Yeah. It's not. It's in the beauty of it. It's easier today because the internet is so readily available. It would be a lot harder 20 years ago, but it was harder back then. But it's just, you can just find it at a fingertip. Makes a big difference. So,
you
can stay in the flow even if you're writing and it's like, I need to know. Well, you can find it out in a few seconds and keep going. So, it's great.
So, do you do conventions? Do you do like Comic Cons or anything that you do book signings?
So I'm affiliated with this group called Realm Makers. They have a yearly writers conference that they do, which is great, and I usually go to that. Like for the last 8 years, I've gone to that, and then they also do they have a traveling bookstore that they take to some Comic Cons and like homeschooling conventions and places where they think people would like to read our kind of fantasy and science fiction. And so if they're nearby, I'll usually join them and sign there and meet fans and readers. And it's a good time. Exhausting, but it's great. So you probably know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm setting up my convention schedule for the year, and I'm working on. There's actually several in Ohio that I'm looking at right now.
Okay.
So
where are you looking at going?
There's one in Toledo. There's one in Cincinnati. There was one I was supposed to do is Fantastic Con, but it's coming up real soon, and I didn't get in time for that one. But there's a fanboy that's happening in Toledo, I think, that I might participate in, and I always do.
Let me know if you're in Toledo. That's not far from me. I'll come up and meet you in person. So
and Jim keeps asking me to do a book tour in the UK, and I would love to, but there's a money issue. Getting there, it would be fun though. Yes, it would definitely be fun. But I'm setting up my schedule, but I definitely recommend it. Bringing your material and setting up at conventions. I also do some like book fairs. There was one in Toledo. It was Toledo. I did recently at a mall there where they have authors set up and do a book signing there. That was interesting.
Huh.
So I'm trying to get Brian to go to a convention. I don't think he's been to one yet, and he needs to come. He needs to come to the one I'm at so he can also sign the books because he's in them too.
Yeah. At least once, just for the experience. You gotta go.
Yeah.
So.
You need to come out my way.
The people watch. If anything else, it's worth it.
Yeah, I do want to go, but you just come my way.
Yeah. Okay.
New York City. New York City is the place to be. New York City is 3.5 hours from me. Or, you got Boston. Boston is another 3.5 hours, so either one will do. Perfect.
All right.
I'll go to those.
Well, Railmakers is going to be in New Jersey next summer, so you could join us there.
Might have to do that.
Yeah.
Now, New Jersey, I could do. I have driven to New Jersey.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't mind that.
All right.
He's up in the Berkshires over in Massachusetts.
Yeah. I've never been to Massachusetts. I want to go sometime. Maybe take the kids up that way.
You should. It's very nice out here.
Yeah. How cold is it right now, though?
What's that?
How cold is it?
It is 14.
Okay, we're 18. They're in Ohio.
17.
Okay.
I don't think I'm too far from you. I'm in Southeast Michigan.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Northwest Ohio. So not too far.
Yep. So I am at 17 degrees right now myself. So nice and balmy. Around here, the locals say that's double digits. It's still shorts weather. For me, I say they're all crazy.
Yeah.
In fact, today we have a friend of ours who's a musician who's a part of a group I'm with, and she moved down to Phoenix, Arizona a couple years back, and she was doing an outdoor concert, and it's a winter concert there. And the video, she has 2 stand heaters, those patio heaters, right next to her. She's bundled up, scarf, hat, playing. She plays different wind instruments. She's playing. I mean, she looked like she was in the Arctic Circle. It was 68 degrees.
No way.
And I'm like,
no way.
What? That's June here. Come on.
Yeah. I'm in a t-shirt at 68, man. I might be in shorts. I'm probably in shorts, a t-shirt.
Well, they might have a wind chill of 64. I mean, come on.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely perspective there. And of course, I grew up in Oklahoma and Tennessee, so winter is a little different. Now in Tennessee, they're having snow, so they're shutting down the world. But
Jim is wondering. We are speaking Fahrenheit. He is Celsius.
Yes.
I don't know. What is 16 Celsius? What would that be?
I used to be able to do that math. It's above freezing. I think he's warmer than all 3 of us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 0 Celsius is 32 Fahrenheit.
Right.
So but it doesn't incrementally go up. So 60 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
So it doesn't just go up 1 degree per.
I'm learning. Well, I'll take it, Jim. I'd rather be in Oxford, England right now then. I'll take the 60.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
I guess I assumed England was colder than that right now. That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
So do you since we're getting closer to the end here, anything last thing you want to say? Any about future plans, future books, book signings, anything like that?
Nothing I guess major. I'm working on another bit of robot fiction right now. Hoping to have it out mid-year, maybe. So, kind of a robot buddy story, and it's all good. Keep working on my 3D printing stuff too, but keep writing.
Yes, that's cool. I love that Halo helmet.
Yeah.
You need next thing you need a Mandalorian helmet if you don't have it already.
I could do it.
That would be nice.
Can be done.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah.
I'm sure.
I don't really want to know how much. I don't want to know how much those things are. I work for Staples, so we have people coming in asking for those printers quite a bit for some reason now. All of a sudden,
they're fun. Well, this one. Okay, so I'm a Vine reviewer for Amazon. Okay. So I actually got this for free to review.
Nice.
That's like the best way to get it. But it's still a very kind of an inexpensive 3D printer. It's around $450, $500. So it's not extreme. It's pretty approachable. So, and you can do anything with it. It's amazing. So.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the stuff that can be done. I actually have some friends who want to do my Dragon Wand, at least the head of it, on a 3D printer. And it's artwork, so I'm like, I do paint and draw. So I'm like, I don't know how to do a 3D model of this, but One of these days, I'll
Yeah.
find somewhere we can.
Yeah, you start small. There's some online tools like there's one called Tinkercad, just free to use. And you kind of just play with the models. And for something like this, there are already models out there. People have already done the work. You can just download and run through what's called a slicing program, and then let your machine do its work. So it's pretty cool.
Now, Jim asked this at the beginning. He's asked it again about the badges in the wall over your left shoulder.
Yeah, so that's my book, Start Curiously Singing, and that's some of the awards it's won along the way. It won a Reader's Favorite Award, and it was a finalist for the Next Generation Indie Award, and yeah, that's what that is. And then this poster over here is actually of Godzilla. I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, but it's a friend of mine got it for me. It's signed by the guy who was in the suit, so it's kind of cool. In the original Godzilla movies. So,
nice.
Yeah.
And the best thing I have over here is like a signed picture from the guy who played Flash Gordon in the movie Flash Gordon.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He was next to me at one of the Comic Cons I was at, and this guy is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And right before he left, he handed me this poster with signed it, and I was like, "I'll take it."
Yeah, nice.
Campy movie, but hey,
it's totally campy. Yes,
absolutely.
Bright colors. Yeah, very campy. But it has a song by Queen though, so there's that.
That made it all worth it.
It did.
That's one of the fun things I love about Comic Cons, and Brian knows this. I've talked a lot about it. Is that I get to meet a lot of famous people at these places, at least famous in the realm of what I like.
I need to go. I need to go.
I've had Walter Koenig come up to my booth to talk to me about my books.
Yeah, well,
is that right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I've had him, Carrie Elwes, trying to think here who's been to my booth. Michael Dorn, Matthew Lewis, who played Neville Longbottom in the Harry Potter movies. He actually picked up a book.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I met Zachary Levi at a Comic-Con Salt Lake, and that was kind of cool. So, and that was before Shazam, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, got to see that. I don't know if you guys were fans of the show Smallville. I met them at a convention here in Detroit once, so it's kind of cool.
Motor City.
What's that?
Motor City Comic Con.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was the last one here that I did a book signing at was Motor City.
Okay, great.
They moved it to that was November. Yeah, that was a big convention. It's huge. So that one, it's close. That one you should do. Come and do a book signing.
Yeah, it's not far. Yep, it's not far.
It's just massive. The place is huge. So
yeah, and then Cleveland's a possibility. Columbus, all close. So.
I haven't someone in Cincinnati yet.
Now, see, I do a homeschooling convention down there. It's a good city for that. So
is that the one? Is that one AIG runs?
I'm trying to think. It's like I can't remember which one it is. Like if it's the Greater Homeschool Convention or what, but they do it every year.
But I'm trying to think. For me, I look for Comic Cons because my stuff is science fiction and fantasy.
Yes,
and I'll say it's from my perspective. One of the great things I've had happen at the conventions is I've written my Christian sci-fi book, and I've had a lot of people who wouldn't read Christian fiction ever pick up the book and read it, and then come back to me either at another convention or online and say how much they loved the book.
Yeah,
and so that I love that because it's definitely introducing a different genre to them entirely by putting it into. Combining it with another genre. So
one of my favorite fan emails was from a guy and it was filled with 4-letter words, but he loved that Amish Vampires in Space. I was like, this is awesome. I won't post it on my website, but it was great. It was like I'm so happy that he was happy. So
yeah. Oh, yes, Jim. That's the only book you don't have of mine is Remnant. But yeah, no, my wildest connection was actually at Motor City Comic Con. Okay. I had someone come up to me because this is my first time. I'm relatively new to Michigan, and so I'm at this Comic Con, not been there before, And I'm not that well known. Okay, I don't pretend to be the super famous author by any measure, but I have somebody come up to me who knows my name and knows my book.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I'm like, that's nice. How?
Yeah.
And he comes up and he's talking about Remnant. He loves the book. It's so great. And he's recommending it to all his friends and people. He is the head of the Orthodox Jewish Writing Guild out of Detroit, and the head of the Orthodox Jew Anti-Defamation League. And I mean, he's very, very Orthodox Jewish. And I'm like, that was the last person I expected to be glowing over my Christian book, because it's not Jewish at all.
Yeah.
It's not against it or negative. It's just, I was like, wow. So that was an unusual exchange, but I loved it because he came right to me to meet me. And I was like, wow, I love this. Made me feel so much bigger.
Yeah, what an honor. Yeah, what an honor. What a nice thing.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Awesome.
So if anybody notices, we have comments coming in from YouTube, but I don't believe they're legit because
I don't think so.
You got spam bots attacking.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Lovely. So, and in the future, spam bots will probably be living creatures that are attacking us, trying to fill our heads with advertising.
Well, it'll count as a view, I guess. I don't know. But, yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for coming on tonight.
You're welcome.
We're just starting the year out. We didn't expect it to actually begin the show until February, but we kind of got an early start last week. So we're getting authors and artists coming on. I have booked another artist who's going to come in the beginning of February, and he's pretty well known in the comic book and in the art circles. So I'm excited to bring him on. I'm not going to spoil who it is just yet, but I got somebody coming. I'm very thankful that I had someone to come on tonight, Mr. Kerry Nietz, because I was very interested. Plus, I personally was like, I got to talk to him about this book.
Yeah.
I was very curious about this.
Thanks for thinking of me. I appreciate it.
So, and if anybody's watching this after it's on the air, after it's off, you have any questions, post them on here. I'm sure we'll see that. It's for Mr. Kerry Nietz. We'll pass it on to him.
Okay, sounds great.
So, anyways, any last comments or questions you want to ask us?
No, I think that's it. You said thanks for having me on. Appreciate you thinking of me, and it was fun.
Yep, it was fun.
Awesome.
And everybody, as I said, we're going to share his links on there. Go on, check out his books, share the books, and talk it up, because that's what authors love people doing. And we will hopefully have in the future talk to Mr. Kerry Nietz again. We can invite him back on.
Absolutely. Anytime.
It's fun talking about that. And perhaps in the future, we might even have him on with other authors within the speculative fiction Christian field. So we can maybe discuss more about the field itself, because it's an unusual field.
That'd be good.
So anyway, so I'm going to say good night to Mr. Kerry Nietz.
Okay, good night, guys.
And we'll hopefully see you in the future.
All right, great. Awesome.
Have a good one.
So, well, that was good. That was a wonderful guest.
Yes, I have to read it.
You do. That it's intriguing. It's just intriguing.
Yeah, I absolutely have to read it now. So I didn't understand, because I remember you sending it to me, and I'm just like, okay, what am I supposed to be looking at here? Oh, he's the author. He wrote this one. And something tells me that I've seen this title before somewhere. So now that he mentions it, so I definitely have to read this book. Those who have not read it, read it, and anything else that he's written.
Yes, very much.
Pick it up. That's why. The links to his books on Amazon are in the chat here somewhere. So if you rewatch, it's in there. You'll catch it. For those that are watching now, it's in the description of the show. That's where you can get his link. I will repost them on our Facebook page.
As I say, it's actually good to go to his website to get the books, because you're still buying them from Amazon. It doesn't want to change your price, but it adds traffic to his website. There's other networks. So for us, we'll share it through his website, but also for you, if you're looking for his books, go to his website and go to there.
Did I not put that up there? Did I forget?
I know. Did you get his Amazon links or to his website links?
I have Amazon up there, but
we'll share his website links on there, unless he wants to. Mr. Kerrys wants to share that on here.
Yeah, I could have sworn I wrote it. I didn't. I'm sorry, but I will. I will post it.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing to go through websites because it helps them and gets traffic to move through their stuff.
Absolutely, they can go wherever. Yeah, anybody. You can go wherever the book is sold. It makes no difference to me, just as long as you buy it.
Yeah.
How about
Buy
that?
it, read it, and review it.
Right? Yeah. Okay, that's it. So we'll see. We'll see everyone next week, next Thursday, and we'll go from there. Right?
See who we have on next Thursday.
Yes.
We're working on it. We're working on it, people.
That's right. So thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. Stay warm if you're freezing right now, like me. That's it.
We can borrow some of that lovely weather from Oxford. So.
That's true. That is true. Yes.
Good night, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.